Hello, race fans. This is Ben Dethridge with Highside Racing Promotions. Today's guest is Dominic Scelzi. He's the two-time defending NARC Fujitsu General Sprint Car Series champion in California. He is from Fresno, California. He's going to talk to us today about his 2022 season, what plans for 2023 look like, as well as some other interesting things. We hope you enjoy it. That's who we got coming up next. Well, we'd like to welcome my next guest at this time. He drives the number 41 Sprint Car from Fresno, California, Dominic Scelzi. Dominic, thanks for taking the time, being on board with us here. Holidays are coming up, so Christmas can be a bit of a wild and crazy time of the whole calendar year, but great to have you here.
Yeah, glad to be here, man.
2022, I mean, what can you say? You're now a multi-time NARC Fujitsu General Series champion. You were managed to pull off in the 410s, 5 victories, based off of 38 starts, had 25 top 10s, 18 top 5s, 14 podium finishes with an average finish of 8.26. 360s, you guys had some success too with 6 wins. 6 wins in 22 starts, a really good win percentage there. 15 podiums, 17 top 5s, and 20 top 10s in 22 starts. 4.59 overall, 6.9 for an average finish, 60 starts, 45 top 10s, 29 podiums, and 11 victories. How would you rate 2022 self-assessment, though?
You know, it was a very good year. We improved on a lot of things that I felt like we needed a little help on in 2021. But, you know, for whatever reason, we just didn't equate out to as many wins as we did, the previous year. So I would give us I felt like 2021 was, maybe an A minus, and I felt like this year we were a solid B or a B plus. You know, I think that we definitely could have been better at times, but there were also, we got into a run there in May. I think we won 5 races in a row or something like that. So it was a little bit of a hot and cold year. We were incredibly consistent all year long, which was really good. We qualified better this year than we did previously, but I felt like we kind of got into a slum there, later in the year. For whatever reason, it just seemed like we struggled executing late in the race, and that was something I felt like early in the season and last year we were really good at. So, all in all, it was a really good year. I just felt like there was, just a short time where I felt like we maybe not really got lost, but just seemed to not really be able to rack the wins up like we would have liked. And then, later at the very end of the year, I felt like we really were strong. We went down to Arizona. We won both nights and came back to Merced. And the first night went 10th or 11th to 5th, and then was actually leading with about 6 or 7 to go at the final race of the year there in Merced. And I had a right rear bleeder stick under yellow and ended up, losing the right rear. So, there were a handful of races that we led and were close and just it didn't work out or had something stupid happen. So all in all, it was a really good year, and I'm looking forward to what next year has to bring.
And the victories that you got, for instance, for the 410s, you won at a different place each time. Colorado Speedway in Hanford, Petaluma, Silver Dollar Speedway in Chico, Thunderbolt Raceway in Tulare, and Southern Oregon Speedway in White City. 360, though, you were able to get a couple of multiple wins at some tracks, Ocean Speedway in Watsonville. You mentioned Cocopah Speedway in Somerton, Arizona. And then single wins at Silver Dollar and Tulare, too. So kind of spread it out as far as the win list was considered.
Yeah, I would say over the last maybe 3 or 4 years, I've been really fortunate enough to, I've got enough laps now, and we've got a really good team behind me that, I feel like we're consistent and we have a shot to win every night, everywhere we go. And, I couldn't tell you how many different tracks we won at this year, but it was quite a few. And our goal every year was we wanted to win somewhere new, wanted to win the NARC championship. We were able to win, like Cocopah was for the first time we won there. And, we won at Southern Oregon for the first time. So won at a couple new places, which is always exciting. And we were able to defend our championship title, which is really neat. And, like I said, I think all in all, it was a really good year. And I think that with what we learned late in the year and, kind of taking off of where we think we're going for 2023, I think, I feel confident going into the year. And I think just like always, after you've won some, a championship and now defended the championship, you want to, kind of get back into that idea of, how do we race for a possible third championship run?
Totally. And, let's rewind the clock to this time last year. Was the goal always to run for the NARC General Fujitsu Series, or were you just going to kind of play it by ear, see how things shook up, see where you guys were comfortable at with your program?
No, our goal from the beginning of the season, in 2019, I drove for Roth Motorsports for the entire NARC schedule, and we led the series in wins, laps led, top fives, top threes. I felt like we're, in my opinion, the best car, and we had a magneto failure on night 2 that took us from running 4th to a DNF that landed us like 23rd in points. Mm-hmm. And with the way the point system is structured, we lost 18 points at that one event, and we ended up losing the championship by 11 points. So it really lit a fire under my butt, and when we decided to chase it in 2021 with the family car with my team, our biggest goal was to cut out, have no DNFs and really cut out any failures as best as we could. Obviously, some things are out of your control, but we wanted to do the best job we could of that and win a lot of races. And in 19 in the 83 car, we won 5 NARC events, and in 2021 we won 6 NARC events, which was the best that I'd ever had in a season for 410 wins. And then this year we won 4 in a row there with the NARC series and had a non-points night Chico that we won as well. So I felt like we did our job there of winning and being consistent. And this year we were lucky enough to only have 1 DNF, which was an engine failure, very late in the season, and we were lucky enough that we had scored enough points to stay out front and have it locked up going into the final race of the year. But I had never really raced for points in my sprint car career before 2019, and after doing it once and being so close, and then now doing it 2 more times and being able to successfully win championships, I can't tell you for certain, because I have a few things going on in my life that might keep me away from running the full championship in 2023. But as of right now stands, our plan is to run the entire NARC schedule again in 23 and hopefully go for 3 wins or 3 championships in a row.
Which would put you're already an elite group by winning it more than once, but no doubt, having a hat trick would definitely put you in an even more prestigious category.
Absolutely. That's always the goal. And, there's a handful of guys on the NARC history books that have won basically 3 or more championships. I want to say it's only like 6 guys ever. So, that's something that's a goal of mine and our team, is to try and continue to rack up the wins and continue to climb the all-time win list for the NARC series, and as well as climb the championship list. So I know neither of them are easy, and just about the time you think you've got it all figured out, there's always a curveball thrown. So sure. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying racing out here on the West Coast. It's something that I really didn't do a whole lot of over the last 5 or 6 years, but now that I've been home here the last 2 seasons, it's been a lot of fun racing on the West Coast.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you said 2023 is a little bit undetermined on some specifics, but is there anything specific that you guys are pretty much committed to, like run specific races or anything of that nature?
Right now it's a little early to say. Our goal as of right now is to run the entire NARC schedule. Obviously, my wife and I are expecting our second child in April, and there's a lot of 410 racing in April. So it's really going to depend on when our little one's ready to pop out. And, as long as everything goes, well there, I'm hoping we can make all the races. But, if something comes up or the timing doesn't work out, then we'll just, we'll change our plan and go to a pick and choose schedule. And I would imagine the plan would be run the majority of the 410 events, as many as we can possibly hit on the Western U.S. And, I don't think right now we have any plans of traveling, but like I said, things can change on a whim. But right now our goal for our team is to, hopefully have a third NARC championship by the end of 2023.
No doubt. Speaking of being a dad, you already are one, and it changes things. It changes your whole life. Have you noticed since you've became a father that that your driving style or your mentality has been completely different since then? Has it gotten more aggressive or more passive, more, uh, more thinking big picture kind of deal?
I mean, for me, I felt like just the years of experience of racing on the road has really helped me. I wouldn't say calm down, but learn how to utilize all 30 laps or all 40 laps or however long that race is. Utilize all the laps instead of trying to race wide open for all 30 or all 40 laps, however
Sure.
long the event is. So, I would say one thing that has definitely changed for having a kid is when there is that little bit of extra danger factor, extra fudge factor that you feel like, I might not make it through this corner, or this move might cost me a chance at finishing the race. I will have to admit, it's definitely slowed me down in that aspect. It's taken a little bit of the risk factor out for me. But I think at the end of the day, it's made me a lot smarter of a driver. And I feel that I've really done a better job over the last 2 years of being a dad, of utilizing the important parts of the race and not burning my tire off, not racing hard, as hard as some guys do early, and waiting to the end and letting the race kind of work back to me. And I feel like that's been an asset more than it's been a hindrance for me in the last few years. And you get guys like Corey Day or Justin Sanders who, they push from lap 1 to lap 30 every single night. And, sometimes they're up on top of the podium. Other times they're on the tow truck. But, at the end of the day, guys like that push me to be better because they are so tough to beat, especially being on kill from lap 1 to lap 30. They don't take any laps off to where, I feel like for me, not that it's lazy, but, I'll try my best to save equipment and hope for late yellows and hope for, a yellow flag within 10 to go or something, or lap traffic, and be able to bunch back up and hope that I have a little bit more gas in the tank when maybe they're either, physically depleted or maybe they've burnt their tires off or blistered tire or something like that. So I try to play the smart game more so now than I ever have before. And quite honestly, I feel like it's paid off for me more over the last few years than it ever has before that.
Sure. So a lot less Lightning McQueen moves.
Absolutely. Yep.
So there was once upon a time a thing called the off season where we didn't really race. That there was that kind of hibernation period. It's really kind of become non-existent in the last few seasons. But for you in the off season, what do you do to keep yourself busy? What are the things that you like to enjoy, kind of away from the racing scene once that things have come to a conclusion?
I tell you what, I really love having weekends home with my family. It's I think more special every single day, just watching my daughter grow and being able to spend time with my dogs. Like right now, I'm just laying on the couch with my puppy dog.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the hell out of it. So for me, having my weekends and having the, not the late nights and being able to enjoy, a little bit of normalcy is awesome for me. And, at the same time, this is probably the most serious I've been on an off season of wanting to, lose some weight and get serious on my cardio and be in the best shape physically and mentally for next year. I feel like it's something that gets, I guess, overlooked a little bit in our world of sprint car racing, but I think it's really important and something I haven't taken as serious the last 2 years, just with the amount of things on my plate away from the racetrack. But, I'm kind of at a point in my life where I'm able to get a little more serious with what I want to be and how I want to attack the season. And, my guys they're ready to win. They're ready to, put all the effort in and I want to match that. I want to make sure that I don't leave anything on the table because like I said, when you have guys, like Corey and like Justin and Shane Golovic and, guys like that week in and week out, they're putting all the effort in all the time. And, right now I feel like we're the ones that are getting chased and I don't ever want to be the one that's having to chase. So, it's time to put a little bit more work in and hopefully the results follow.
Well, you mentioned a really good aspect that is often overlooked. I mean, mental preparation is a huge thing. Physical preparation is because it's a physical sport. Yeah, it's, mechanical, like from, the average fan of it's just cars. It's just worrying about the cars. But for the drivers, you're on a 3/8 mile and it goes 30 laps nonstop, green to checkered, and maybe it's a track with character, a little hammered down. It'll wear anybody out. So
Absolutely.
So you have to You have to have that stamina, like you said, the cardio, and and just the mental strength to go through it.
Right. Yeah, it's not easy. I look at guys that, they've done it a long time, and you see the change in their career. Like, for instance, Donnie Schatz, everyone talks about how consistent he is and how he never really puts himself in positions to crash or be out of the race. But if you look at earlier in his career, like when he was really young, a lot of guys were like, man, this guy's never going to make it because he was always hanging it in the fence and crashing. And once he, I don't know what it was. Obviously, it was before I was ever racing sprint cars, but once he figured out what it took to, be close every night, then you start seeing, the wins grow and everything like that grows. So, I look at a guy like that. I look at a guy like Jason Myers, two of probably the most mentally tough guys in the world of sprint car racing. And you look at a guy like Brad Sweet, what he's done over the last 4 years, it takes extreme mental toughness. And, I know that it's become more of a common thing. There's guys and race teams out there that many people don't know, but they see sports psychologists and they're, they're deep diving inwards into themselves to try and better their, maybe their decision making or just how they feel and their confidence going into every night. So there's definitely something to be said for investing in yourself to get your best result. And I think now more than ever, we're starting to see that.
Yeah, because it's a very humbling sport. Like you said, you had 4 in a row, and then you guys went through a rough patch. I mean, psychologically, that could be like basically hell existing in your head sometimes. I could do everything right and not win, or not even be coming close to winning. Whereas other times it's like I felt like I gave no effort and everything just fell my way. I mean, that can play some mind games with you sometimes.
Exactly. And momentum is so important in our world. You want to make sure that, when you do have momentum, you use it. And, a lot of times if a guy can win 2 races in a row, maybe 3 races in a row, that momentum can carry them to really good finishes in a really good possibly month or a few months or maybe even a season, because so many times we see guys get on a roll and their momentum will make guys around them start to make mistakes because they're pushing so hard to beat them. So, whenever you get, a few things fall your way, utilize any advantage you have and any momentum you've got to, try and continue to push the success.
Well, and it reminds me something that really stuck with me as a kid. I just started announcing and everything, and Steve Kent, who's from your neck in the woods with KPC, he had mentioned in an interview during like Speed Week Northwest about, it was like his only podium of the whole week and they'd just been struggling. It's like, I'm just happy because this sport is so humbling. You can have all the success in the world and then just one day, like, you'll never win again. Or vice versa, have no success at all and all of a sudden start winning. You don't know when it starts and you don't know when it's like life. You don't know when it's going to get good or when it's going to get rough.
Absolutely. And, one thing that I've learned over the last few years, my dad has battled some health issues over the last 2 years. And before he was a pretty healthy guy, never really had any issues. So I think just, learning to enjoy every moment, not knowing what the future holds and be in the moment has been a big thing, a big focus of mine to just say, hey, you know what? I'm in a really good place right now. I don't know what's coming, but I'm going to do my best to make sure whatever is coming, I'm putting as good of mojo out there, as good of attitude out there that, whatever's coming is going to be equally as good or maybe even better. And if it doesn't, what's the next step to overcome? The best way to, start up after failure is to pick yourself up off the floor and start figuring out where you're going wrong and try and right your wrongs. So a lot of that in life, I think that's what makes people champions in life, is being able to get themselves back up and dust themselves off and continue pushing. And, I think it's very important from a racer standpoint to never expect to win, never, take anything for granted, because there are no easy wins. And when you are winning, you have good things coming your way. Enjoy every second of it, because just like Steve said, you have no idea when your last win is. And quite honestly, I may have already won my last race. Nobody knows that except for the man upstairs.
Sure, yeah. And tomorrow's never guaranteed. It's a sad but true fact, so you have to make the most out of every single day. And like you said, yeah, it's all about getting up and dusting off. Napoleon Bonaparte said victory, or success isn't, in the victory of a battle. It's taking every failure and setback or taking every failure and looking at it as a setback and just overcoming it. So no
Absolutely.
doubt. So yeah, talking about your dad, had a distinguished career with NHRA, with drag racing. Was there any or sort of ever interest for you to go that route, or has it always been circle track racing?
I saw my first sprint car race at 5 years old, and from that point on, quite honestly, I never had any interest in anything but sprint cars.
Mm-hmm.
And really up until probably maybe I was 12, 14 years old, I never really had any interest in anything except for winged sprint cars.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, that's always been my love. My dad had an amazing career, but it's just never was something that I love drag racing, but I don't love it like I love sprint car racing. And even now my dad is more of a sprint car fan than he is a drag racing fan.
Sure. And you mentioned a great point. You said specifically wing sprint car racing. Where you're from, Fresno, is considered the Central Valley for folks that are listening around the world that may not know exactly where that is. But, for so many years, or at least it seemed like me outside looking in, a lot of the big powerhouse successful guys had came from either with the Kadings in the Bay Area or all those teams from the Sacramento area. But in the last, you would know this more than me, 10 years or so, maybe a little bit more, there's been a big, huge youth movement, you included, from the Central Valley. A lot of that is, a testament of Plaza Park, Lemoore, micro sprint racing.
I agree with that 100%. I look at the teams here locally. You look at, Ross Motorsports, Tarleton Motorsports, Williams Motorsports. How many championships from 2000 to recent have come right here in the Central Valley? Not only, I want to say Ross has 4 NARC titles. I think, Jonathan Allard had, maybe 3 NARC titles, possibly 4. I think it was 3. And then Bud Kading won one there. So Williams has 4. Then you look at Tarleton has 2 with Kyle Hurst and Carson Macedo. You have DJ Neto with 1, myself with 2. So, that's excuse my French, a shitload of championships over just the last 22 years of sprint car racing here, all within a 45-minute drive of each other. So,
sure.
You look at California as a whole. Jason Myers was a 2-time World of Outlaw champion back-to-back in the late 2000s. Brad Sweet, now a 4-time champion, just up the road, Sacramento. To me, California doesn't get the recognition like, let's say, Pennsylvania. But the difference truly is the Pennsylvania guys all stay there. They stay together. They race there. Could you imagine if just half of the really good guys from California didn't leave? Guys
sure.
like, Rico was around full time, or Kyle Larson, hell, Brad Sweet, my brother, Buddy Kofoid, all these amazing talents that have come up through California, gotten good, and then off they go throughout the Midwest, and then, they're on their way to stardom.
Sure.
I truly believe that there's a breeding ground in California, unlike anywhere else in the United States, unlike anywhere else in the world with talent, and it comes from Plaza Park, comes from the Lemoore Jet Bull, it comes from Delta Speedway, it comes from Cycleland, it comes from Deming.
Mm-hmm.
Guys that race on the West Coast, I truly believe are just brought up differently, and there's a magic there. I've had some success over the last 2 years, but I'm nowhere near one of the top 3 or 4, even top 10 guys that have come out of California in the last decade or 2. It's amazing the talent that's come out of here. Right now, I've been the lucky guy that's been on top, but so many of our talented guys are either doing other stuff or jumping into other things or following great opportunities, and it's really neat to see.
Yeah, and that's not to, and my point being not to take away, Jason Myers, Steve Kent, Tim Green was from the Fresno area, Ronnie Day. There's been just sensational, but it just seems like there's more. Like, for folks that don't know, Colorado Speedway, I think Peter Murphy gets a huge pat on the back and props and kudos, as well as the folks at Thunderbolt Raceway, bringing back the Kings of Thunder and a lot of NARC shows at both facilities, because there for a little bit, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was only like 1 or 2 races, and there was Cotton Classic and Trophy Cup.
Yep.
and that was kind of it. Now it's sort of like a more of a full-time deal where it's almost, not quite, but almost running every week. I know that there's a shutdown during the hot months.
Well, I think, in reality, there was racing around here, but not as many big races. I mean, really for us, the Cotton Classic was a big one. And then you had, not the HK, the Pombo Sargent, and then you had Trophy Cup. There really wasn't a ton of huge races in the Central Valley, so a lot of it got overlooked most of the time. But Peter in 2021 had a bunch of races at Hanford.
Mm-hmm.
Tulare had a bunch of races. We saw that drop off, tremendously last year. There were not many races in Hanford at all. There weren't many races in Tulare at all. But the races that they had were all big paying races. I think this year, from what it sounds, both racetracks are going to have a lot of races, and they're going to have big paying races, which is great for the Central Valley. But, I'm a big supporter of what, Peter's trying to do. And, hopefully he's able to have some more races successfully on his schedule and not, have cancellations like we did this year, or, just sometimes maybe lack of scheduling. So, really hoping that we're able to have a big successful year like we did in 2021 here. I mean, honestly, you ask anyone down here in California, and I think the 2021 season was what looked like to the racers the most successful year that we've seen in 20 years between Hanford and Tulare. With the amount of races, the quality of races, the quality of car counts, that was incredible. So if we can get back to doing that like we did in 2021 instead of last year, I think we'll see some really impressive stuff start coming out of the Central Valley again.
Yeah, yes, no doubt. And there's also been a number of distinguished non-wing racers too. So I was catching on the wing and non-wing stuff, because there's been a pretty prestigious history of non-wing racing in the Central Valley, especially Hanford, Tulare, even Bakersfield.
Right. Yeah. No, there's a ton of it. And when I was growing up, when I was young, the wing stuff was what I always loved. But like Peter Murphy, he would win almost every race. I could remember going to Hanford, and they would get 40, 50 non-wing 360 or non-wing 410 sprint cars, and he would be the guy to beat. So
in a Tarleton car, I think most of the times too.
In a Tarleton car, exactly. Yeah. So like to me, that I don't know what went wrong on the USAC side or the non-wing sprint car side, but it's almost all but extinct here on the West Coast. I mean, CRA is a shell of itself, and the West Coast non-wing 360, I honestly don't even know if it's a series anymore, but obviously there's a lot of issues on that end, and I don't think they have anybody like Peter Murphy that is putting the time in to try and put races on and make it better. But I think that guys like Damian Gardner, the guy's won over 100 CRA races. He ran the USAC National Tour forever, and I wish there maybe a guy like that could at some point when he's done with his career, try and get in there and fix it from a promotion standpoint, because there's some broken stuff over there on the non-wing side, which is unfortunate, because when I grew up, wing cars and non-wing cars ran hand in hand at Hanford and Tulare. So
sure,
I'd love to see that again. And who knows, maybe as I get a little bit older and start slowing down and racing a little bit less, maybe I take a little dip into non-wing racing and try and have some fun on that end.
There you go. And a great segue is how do I put this? Your speech on the microphone, you're not afraid to say what's on your mind. And some people might consider it, well, man, he's super abrasive or judgmental, but I think your honesty speaks volumes. And I think that's important. What is your opinion on that, though?
I'll tell you what, my opinion has gone back and forth, but unfortunately my actions haven't changed at all. There's times where I wish maybe I should hold back or keep my mouth shut a little bit, and I never seem to be able to do that for whatever reason. And I definitely get a little bit of hate from it, but I think at the end of the day I get a little bit more love. And what I always say, I get asked about it a lot, from whether it be officials, competitors, fans, sometimes even sponsors. But how I really narrow it down is, I've had the amazing opportunity to be able to race at a lot of different places, and not everybody's been able to do that. And I don't take that lightly at all. I'm thankful for everything I've been able to do, from, all the supporters that I've had, all the different sponsors throughout the years that have continued to support what we've done as a family race team. And then, the times I've driven for other teams and be able to do a lot of stuff. I look at that and the experience that I've been able to gain as what I consider myself being a fan first and foremost. I see all the great and all the good that's in sprint car racing, and then I see the bad. And the bad, to me, is outweighed tenfold to the good. The good is way more, but it doesn't take a whole lot to soil a pie.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, it's very important for me as a fan first and foremost, and then as a competitor, and then as a car owner to look at it and say, boy, we're making mistakes here, and it's really hurting our product that we're putting out there for sponsorship to get more money for events and for the fans to be able to make sure we put on a good show. And, you know, a few of the things that I'm pretty vocal on is you know, track prep. I'm a firm believer that the racetrack needs to be, you know, 2 lanes every night. You know, I think as I've gotten a little bit older, I like the racetrack to be slick and wide and a little bit slowed down and not wide open, because I personally feel like the racing's a lot better when it gets like that. And it's also less important to have really big motors. And you know, then you take a little bit of the emphasis off of the money being spent, more so on the driver and the crew working on the car. I think that becomes way more important than the racetrack. Like, I look at, you know, the money we race for from a car owner standpoint. I want to see more money thrown at the races and at the racers, and what they're doing in Skagit right now is a perfect example of that, because, you know, quite frankly, the purses over the last 20 years have not moved very much if you look at the entire spectrum of purses, but then you look at the cost and things have tripled and quadrupled.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm a big advocate for getting more money and, you know, hopefully those big money races put more fans in the stands. And then the third thing I look at is, how do we run a tidy show, you know, no downtime, making sure the fans in the stands have, you know, something going on constantly. And you know, I push really hard for when there is a race going on, especially if I have any say in it, or if anyone wants to listen to me complain, don't have 5 or 6 classes where, you know, these poor kids are going to sleep at 11 or, you know, or not even 11. They're going to sleep at 2, 3 in the morning because the race doesn't get done until midnight or 1 o'clock.
Sure.
You know, to me, a race needs to get done in 3.5 hours tops. You start at 7, get done at 10:30. Start at 6:30, and get done at, you know, 9:30. To me, it's perfect. My goal every night, you know, that Peter and I talk about, I think a perfectly run race is something that gets done at a time that if you wanted to and you're a little bit older, you can still make it to Applebee's and have a nice dinner, or, you know, whatever. Or your kids aren't asleep before the main event runs, because you want those kids to be watching the final race of the night. So for me, those are really my 3 points that I always seem to be harping on, pushing on. And I think I ruffle a few feathers, but at the end of the day, somebody's got to do it. You know, everybody is so politically correct anymore, and I am so far from that. I just couldn't disagree more with being politically correct. I think people want to see the real us. And, you know, there's too many kids out there, too many guys out there that are just flat boring. Nobody wants to hear them. Nobody wants to talk to them. Everyone's a nice kid. Well, let's see, you know, who that kid really is. You know, some of those really nice kids aren't really nice kids. And some of those really quiet kids have such a personality. They're doing themselves a disservice by not showing that personality. And, you know, I was just, I guess, in a lucky position that, you know, the supporters of our race team have been there from the beginning. And we've got an amazing group of sponsors that have been there from day one. And, you know, they love me for who I am, and it works out great. I'm able to say what I want to say, and you know, if I ruffle a few feathers, so be it.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, it's, you know, racing, you have the fans, the drivers, and the track, and it's like a holy trinity. And if there's one emphasis on too much, then it's off balance, and that's the $1 trillion question, is how to keep that balance in place. You know, the track's got to make money, but the racers aren't, or, you know, the fans are paying too much, but they're not getting good product. It's such a balancing act, and, you know, it's tricky. So, but, you know, the fact that you're not compliant when there's mistakes being made, and it's, you know, like, it may come off to somebody like, man, why are you being so aggressive, bro? That's not really the case. You say it because you care, not because you hate the person. So I think that's important to note there.
Exactly. And you know, and I can't say it enough. I love this sport. This sport is, you know, I've grown up in it, and I love it, and I'm always going to be a part of it. But, you know, on the same token, if for instance, if you look at any coach in the NFL or you look at any, any fan in the NFL, they're pretty critical of the product that's put out there because they want what's best. They want everything that they're doing and they're a part of to continue to succeed and grow. And that's what I want for sprint car racing, especially on the West Coast. And I feel like now more than ever, the people that are involved are the right people. I look at, with Scott Russell with SCCT in Placerville, I think he does a phenomenal job, not only with his facility, not only with his track surface, not only with his promotions, but he's paying good money. He's putting big races up. He's really being a driving force in the sprint car community out here. And, you look at Peter Murphy and Kevin Rudeen. You look at Jim Allen with the NARC series. There's so much good coming out here that it's really exciting. I know Brad and Colby and Kyle took over Chico, and now they've got the High Limit series. I would love to see them, start putting a little bit more 410 races on and put a little bit more money up in California, which I think they're starting to do. So it's exciting what our future holds, but we need to make sure we're doing everything possible to continue to see it grow because, we don't know what the future holds, just like we were saying earlier. And I want to make sure that, whatever I'm doing and whatever our team's doing, we're making sure we're building everything up the best way we possibly can. And we're not letting things fall through the cracks.
Exactly. And one of them, it's like, it's great to have a $50,000 to win race, but if it only pays $5,000 for second and $500 to start, holy smokes. Like we want to talk about, payout inequality. So
I could not agree more with what you're saying. 100% right.
$500 for the first non-transfer for a B main. Holy smokes. There's going to be some guys doing some unspeakable things, just to get in the B main because they're probably a C main. So,
yep.
Well, we're going to kind of wrap things up here, but one of the last questions I had for you, your number's 41. It has been most of your career. Is there any backstory behind that at all, or is it just a number that you chose?
Actually, my favorite number is 27. Always has been, probably always will be. But my go-kart was 27 when I was a young kid, and then when we got into the dirt scene, racing junior sprints, we really just kind of. I think my first number was number 20. At that point, Daniel Osowski was driving the TSR 20, and then he went to 83. He was driving the 83 car out here, the Roth car, and once Danny left the 83 car, we're like, well, we need to come up with a number of our own. And I wanted to go back to 27. And at that point in time, my dad owned a USAC midget, which was number 41. And where that number came from was, which was the original 41 for us, was my dad wanted to be number one. And back then, I don't even know how it is anymore, but you had to register your number with USAC. And number 1 was taken, number 4 was taken, number 7 was taken. So he tried for 14, which was number 1 4 times because he's a 4-time world champion.
Sure.
And 14 was taken. So he's like, well, is 41 available? And 41 was available. And if he wasn't going to be able to get 41, he said he really wasn't sure what he was going to do. But it was pretty much the last pick, and it's been something that's stuck ever since. And I think it's a beautiful number. You don't really see many 41s out there. So It's a lot of fun to be able to have a number that not many people have. And, hopefully, one day maybe we can look back on it and we can talk about the 41 car, which I think would be my goal is one day maybe being a car owner, the famous 41 would be a really cool thing for people to say maybe 30 years from now.
No doubt. Well, we appreciate your time. We know you're a busy guy. I mean, the holidays are around. You're a working man, and of course, you got to get your race team all prepped and ready. But we greatly appreciate it. But I do want to let you have a chance to thank all the wonderful people, your sponsors, your marketing partners, your crew, for just a second.
Absolutely. For sure, my mom and dad, they've been the biggest supporters of mine from day one. We've got a family of people that have always been there for us. Fuel delivery service, Whipple Supercharged with the entire Whipple family, Redline Oil, K&N, Sparco Fire Suits. I've been wearing a Sparco suit for 16 years now. It's been an amazing ride. The Jorgensen family with the Jorgensen Eagle, Meridian Steel. There's some amazing people, Napa Auto Parts even, that have they've all been involved for a long time, and I'm very thankful for it. So, and I would say last but definitely not least would be Scelzi Enterprises, our family business, and Red Rose Transportation, two of our family businesses that have all of our employees really are on the racing bandwagon now. And, whenever we go to a race here in the Central Valley, it's nothing to get 15, 20 of our Scelzi guys out there and repping the 41 car on their back. So it's pretty cool. We've got what we've built with our race team, and thankful for it every single day.
Well, awesome. Well, we thank you for taking the time, and we wish you and your family, as well as everybody on your race team, the happiest of holidays. And we'll be seeing you soon at a race in 2023.
Absolutely, man. Take care. Hopefully Santa Claus brings everything your kids are wanting this year.
Yeah, no doubt. He doesn't have to worry about taking care of me, but my kids, yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
Got to keep the battalion happy.
That's right.